Hello and welcome to the ScatterVolt channel, and today this is my $400 gaming PC. So this is for those entry budget PC gamers out there who want to make a new gaming PC but still do not want to spend a ton of money, like about over $700 for a gaming PC. But for this price point of $400 is actually surprisingly good. This has surprisingly good performance, so games like in Battlefield 4, DayZ, Titanfall, Thief, any of those new games, this will run it at least above 35 FPS, because the graphics card that's in here is actually surprisingly fast. So expect some pretty exceptional performance out of it, that you will be confident that this will run any game out there at really high settings at 1080p. So just know that, because this is actually a really good gaming PC for $400, and it's a really value-oriented one. So for the motherboard, this is the Gigabyte GA-F2A 75M HD2 motherboard. This is a motherboard holding the FM2 Plus socket, and this is by Gigabyte, which Gigabyte make a lot of motherboards, and they are a old motherboard maker, so they have quite a bit of experience in making motherboards. And for being at a really cheap price of $55 for one of their A75 Northridge motherboards, this is pretty good. This holds the Hudson D3 Northridge with, the A75 Northridge with Hudson D3. So you can expect some pretty decent overclocking if you choose to do that. All of the SATA ports on this is SATA 6, so that's really helpful. And this has USB 3.0, and it's at a small factor of micro ATX, so I do like that. So this is a really good motherboard to get for this value-oriented $400 gaming PC. Now for the processor, this is the AMD Athlon X4 750K. So this is a quad-core Athlon processor. This is one of the budget, value-oriented gamer processors out there. It's at 3.4 gigahertz and is a quad-core. And don't be afraid to have a quad-core in your system. All games right now are totally optimized for quad-cores. And there's only one game that is not optimized for a quad-core, and that is Battlefield 3 and possibly Battlefield 4, I'm not sure. So don't be afraid to underestimate this CPU. If you think this will bottleneck with the GPU that I'm going to put in here, it is totally not going to. It is a regular, typical quad-core that is still a really good processor. It's like an upgraded Phenom, or actually, as a matter of fact, this is faster than the FX 4300, so you should not underestimate this CPU. And for a really good price of $80, this is in fact a really good CPU to get for a value-oriented gaming PC. Now for the RAM, this is the ADATA XPG V1.0 8GB RAM set. So this is by ADATA, and I do actually like ADATA because their memory sets, like just ranging from SSDs to flash drives to RAM, they're actually pretty good. So for this specific RAM set, it's at a speed of 1600 megahertz at a cadency of 9. And this is their XPG series, so they're more targeted towards gamers. And for a relatively low price of $64, this is actually not too bad of a RAM set that looked pretty nice for their price. Now for the graphics card, this is the Sapphire Dual X Radeon R7 265. So this is one of the newer AMD GPUs out there, and this is actually really fast for a $150 price point. Now, you may be saying, why did I choose a 750 Ti? Well, from looking at benchmarks, this still has a very impressive lead above the 750 Ti in terms of FPS. It has a much higher minimum base clock speed in a lot of games. In Battlefield 4, this has a minimum base FPS of 35, while the 750 Ti is barely holding on with 30 FPS. And also, even for an NVIDIA optimized games such as Batman Arkham Asylum, this still actually has the same base minimum FPS as a 750 Ti. And just for any other games, this always is just a much better card than the 750 Ti. So this is actually a really good graphics card, and expect some really good performance out of this. Do not underestimate this card at all. If you want to run Battlefield 4 the highest settings possible, this will totally run it. If you want to run DayZ or Titanfall the highest settings possible, this will run it. So do not underestimate this card whatsoever, because it's actually really fast. And not to mention the people who are making it, Sapphire, they make the highest quality AMD cards, period. Maybe besides Asus, but they are just a really good graphics card maker, and in a $400 build, this is actually really fast. Now for the storage, this is the Seagate Barracuda 1TB hard drive. So if you're wondering why I've always gone with Western Digital hard drives for every single one of my builds, the only reason why I chose this was because it's an extra $5 cheaper right now, so get it. Get it while you still can. But as you know, Seagate also make good hard drives, maybe in my opinion not as good as Western Digital because of the warranty, but still this is a good hard drive, and expect some good performance out of loading games out of this. All of my games are stored on a hard drive and they load actually quite fast, so don't be ashamed about putting your games on this or having to spend the money on an SSD. And for having 1 terabyte of storage, this is going to be plenty of enough for storage, even if you're going to include all your programs, games, and even recorded footage of your games. This, just in the technical specifications, this has SATA 6 gigabyte speeds, 64 megabytes of cache, and is a 3.5 inch drive, so this will fit right into your PC case, and just it's a good hard drive. I just usually like Western Digital ones, but don't trust me, this is a good hard drive still. Now for the power supply, this is the Corsair CX430 430 watt power supply. So a lot of people go for this power supply in budget builds since it is the right amount of wattage you need, and it's 80 plus bronze, and it has a really low price of $20. And for being 80 plus bronze and being by Corsair, this is just a no-brainer power supply. This is just a really good power supply to get for value-oriented gaming PCs, and for having all of the good stuff that a lot of high-end power supplies have, such as 80 plus, having really good circuitry inside of their power supply, and just being a really good quality power supply. This is just a really good power supply to get for this PC. It'll run everything, the wattage is enough. You can even run SLI on this if you wish to, but this is just a really good power supply for $20. Now lastly for the case, this is the Rosewell FBM01 Dual Fans Micro ATX Mini Tower. So because of cost and budget, we had to, kind of cheap out on the case, but still, this is a nice looking case. This is by Rosewell, and Rosewell make really nice, not just cases, but a lot of good components, like ranging all the way from your regular stove, all the way up to high-end PC cases. So this is supposed to fit the Micro ATX form factor, and for $25, this is not too bad. It's actually quite small, so you can have the beauty of having kind of a small gaming PC, so you can move this around wherever you like. This has steel inside of it, so it's really nice and sturdy, and this has already some pre-installed fans and USB 2.0 on the front I/O panel, so this will do for $25 for this budget gaming PC, and it's perfectly fine. And not to mention, if you kind of make it look nice, it'll actually look kind of nice with this nice glossy front finish on the front panel. So that is the whole build, and for $400, this is a really good gaming PC. You probably don't know how fast this actually is, but it is. The Radeon R7 265 is actually going to be carrying this entire build, so expect some actually pretty good performance out of this. If you're going to run games like Battlefield or Titanfall or Thief or even DayZ, this will run any of those games above 35 FPS for sure. Anyway, this is the ScatterVolt channel signing out.